So in Washington and Charlottesville over the weekend, Antifa demonstrators turned out in force. They said they were there to fight fascism, but because they live in an entirely irony-free world, they themselves acted like fascists. They went after police officers and members of the press. Well, despite that, plenty of media personalities remained eager to defend them since they don't oppose political violence, only political violence by people they disagree with.
You attack cops, you slap the media, you are in the wrong, period. But I argue to you tonight, all punches are not equal morally. They are also wrong to hit, but fighting hate is right. People who show up to fight against bigots are not to be judged the same as the bigots, even if they do resort to the same kinds of petty violence.
Thuggishness is thuggishness wherever it comes from politically, and we should be the first to call it out.
I disagree. Sometimes you can't fight people by, praising them or being nice to them. You have to fight fire with fire sometimes.
So political violence is acceptable as long as you agree with me. It's hard to believe we're hearing this out loud and on television, but we are. Tammy Bruce has been watching it carefully. She's a radio talk show host, president of the Independent Women's Voice, and she joins us tonight. Tammy, what you just heard is an out-in-the-open, bald justification for political violence.
It is, and of course, we're not unfamiliar with this. We've seen this historically. Americans have looked back traditionally on history and wondering, how did that happen in Germany? How do these things happen in left-wing cultures where people do inexplicable things? And here it is unfolding in front of us, this remarkably obscene suggestion that certain violence is okay against your fellow Americans. We have a system here that is unique in that people who we disagree with, we can argue against them. We have these ideas in the open, and we can even marginalize them and make it public that we don't like them. We have legislation, and we have a government that protects us with the rule of law. That's what makes America unique and different. What they're suggesting is all of that should go out the window, and that's the problem here. But here's why they're doing it. They've also invested in a narrative that says that President Trump is the creation of a new racism, that America is a racist country, and the only way to prove that, of course, is with events like this. And yet the problem for them is you had, about 25 white racists in Washington, D.C. Most Americans, Tucker, get more people at their backyard barbecue every weekend. And even after...
Well, that's exactly...
Right. That's the real news here. And yet, because
but isn't that, but hold on, but isn't that, let me just ask you, as someone who's lived in this country a long time, and you've been on both sides of the political divide over your life, there aren't a lot of white supremacists. At least I'm almost 50. I've never met a single one of them. I mean, where are all these? I'm serious. Do you run into a lot of white supremacists in the course of your life? Any?
Yeah, no, look, this nation has done a very good job at becoming, we've all become better people as time goes on. That's what Americans do. And that's the real story, Tucker, is that they don't exist.
Yeah, I agree.
And yet, the media and many on the left want it to seem like such an existential threat that you've got to exact violence against them because it's right there at your doorstep. And this is where the problem is. Now, this Antifa group, the Barack Obama administration declared early in 2016 that they were using domestic violence, domestic terrorism violence, and they warned all states and local authorities that this would be an increasing problem as an organized anarchist effort. It, too, is limited. There's maybe 200 of them showed up in Washington. But the fact is the media is abandoning its job by not only not presenting the real facts of what's occurred here, which is what we've just discussed, but casting it as something large, existentially threatening, and something that should legitimize violence against individual Americans. That is what Americans are rejecting, and it's a shame to see it so out in the open with fellow journalists.
Nicely put. Tammy, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Well,